Hey, this is Carl, and today we are going to review this quarter scale Iceman by XM Studios. So stay tuned. So you might have seen my unboxing video that I did last week. If not, here's a video of that. And I may have sounded like a bit of an hater, but I'm really not. I was just a bit disappointed seeing a lot of yellowish areas on the statue. So allow me to dive deeper into the statue and tell you guys what I think of the concept, the sculpt, and of course, the paint. So, let's start with the concept. The base is obviously a danger room related, as we can see the black and teal checker design of the flooring. But underneath that, we can see some tech that you would most likely see underneath the floor of some high-tech facility. We got some wires over here wrapping around each other. And on top of that is we have this cannon. I'm not really used to seeing sentinel-like stuff on a danger room base because we usually see cannons or that circular saw thing on top of a danger room base. But I guess with this type of base, they can both please danger room and sentinel base collectors. We can see that the cannon is battle damage because of this big chunk of ice that Iceman created on top of it, so he can slide. And so we see some battle damages on the cannon here and there, and some frozen kind of effects, which we'll be talking about later on the paint section of the review. We usually see Iceman do this ice slide thing where he slides through them. With that said, we then see Iceman on a sliding kind of pose and is blasting some ice through his left arm. Also, there are no switch outs, so everything in the box will be used unless you decide not to use this power effect thing, which would look silly because the magnets will be even more visible. Now, let's talk about the sculpt. We couldn't see any battle damages on the surface of the danger room base, just some deformation since everything is digital here. But I would say the sub base is well done, especially the lower section of the base. It made the base more interesting than just using a flat black sub base, similar to the Namor behind me. Now, as for the cannon sculpt, I think it's pretty simple. It does have a lot of battle damages like I mentioned in the concept, but it does not have metal-like details to suggest that it's metal. No micro textures that we are accustomed to seeing in XM sculpts. Probably because this is an older sculpt or statue. But this is definitely way better than any older XM statues. Going up is we have the ice slide. The sculpt on this thing definitely looks like ice that we see in movies or in comics. It does have some layers on the sculpt and some cracks making it look lifelike, especially with the paint on, which we'll be talking about next. And as for Iceman, anatomy is fantastic. I also love the way they sculpted him. He has this boxy kind of muscle, signifying that he is made out of chunks of ice. His muscle isn't smooth like what we have. Minor stuff added to the sculpt, but definitely gave the statue character. He even has this pointy ice thing on his shoulder, similar to the comics. Also, in case you miss, he is in fact wearing some shorts. Unlike Silver Surfer, who's naked, this Iceman also has hair, but it's really flat, almost like he's bald already. Would have loved to see some spiky hairs on this one. Anyway, not really important. There's actually a miss here and they sculpted some irises on the eyes, but I'll discuss more of that later on the paint. Lastly is we see this ice power effect on his left hand. I think it's pretty cool until you see the metal rods they use and the magnets. And I do find that the tip of his middle finger is a bit weird on his right hand. Probably some people can do that, but I sure can't make my middle finger bend that way, similar to the statue. And before I forget, I want to mention that Iceman is being supported by two metal rods on both of his legs or feet. One of them is actually a screw where you need to use a bolt to secure him underneath, which is this one. And I really hope that this statue won't lean over time because I do want to display him. And lastly, before we proceed to the paint, let's do the dimensions real quick. The height of the statue is 17.5 inches and the highest point of the statue is the power effect on his left hand. The depth of the statue is about 20 inches and that's when you want to display him like this. When Iceman is looking forward, which I think is how you need to display him so the magnets and the metal rods aren't visible on his left hand. And lastly, the width is about 15 inches from this point of the statue to the top part of this ice slide. Lastly is we are going to talk about the paint. And here's where it gets interesting. The paint on the sub base is definitely well done. The metal areas doesn't have details to suggest that it's metal, but the paint definitely made up for that. With its layers of paint making it really look like that it's metal. Love the rust touches that they did. I think XM has mastered that. And as for the danger room floors, I kinda wish they use a deeper black for this one. I'm not sure if Sideshow's danger room bases are darker like Gambit, Colossus, and Rogue, but I guess that's just my preference. Next is the cannon. I like that they painted it with metallic colors. I really prefer it when metal stuff be painted metallic. It just adds more life to it in my opinion. But my problem is the frozen effect they did on the cannon. It's not really convincing, especially that the paint isn't the same color as the actual ice on top of it. Honestly, you wouldn't even know they did the frozen effect. It just lacks the sculpt to support the frozen effect of the paint. Also, a little nitpicking here. On the cannons at the back, this part of the barrel of the cannons are painted black, where these big cannons weren't painted black. So I think that's a little miss there, but not really important since it's at the back. Next is the ice slide. There's actually not a lot of paint to this area as this is clear resin, but the smudges and highlights on the edges are definitely well done. And that's what makes this thing look like that it's real ice. There's also some hues of very light blue on the base. Though this is clear resin, light does not pass that much to the other side. If you put a flashlight here, it doesn't pass the light that much on the other side. Lastly is we have Iceman himself. So technically the paint on this slide and Iceman is similar, but Iceman is a bit shiny. It's kinda hard how to describe the paint, but it kinda looks like the paint is underneath the resin, if that makes any sense. And it kinda looks like that it's pearl white. He also has the similar white smudges and highlights on the edges of his muscles and some blue paints as shading. When everything is mixed together, it just makes this piece remarkable. But we also need to talk about the bad parts. Like I mentioned on the sculpt that his iris is sculpted, but they actually just painted it with one color, which is white. It bothers me that the iris is kinda protruding a bit. It's not really that visible from afar, but definitely is up close. I think they could have easily sanded that flat, then put on some white paint or something. Also, the metal rods on the ice power effect is really visible if not displayed properly. I kinda wish they just painted the thing so it won't be that visible on all angles. The magnet is just awful and pretty big too. But like I said, it's not visible at all if displayed the right way, which is this Iceman facing you. My last concern is the discoloration of the clear resin. My friend told me that XM assured buyers that no such thing will happen because they probably use some special expensive clear resin for this. And I'm not sure how true that claim is since I've not read those comments or messages myself. But after posting my unboxing video, someone did comment that they, XM, did guarantee us that no clear resin turning yellow will happen. Well, it did to me. As you can see, the base is already a bit yellowish, especially on this area here. Some of the yellowish areas does look like it's dirty ice that's melting. I'm pretty sure some of you could understand what I'm trying to describe here. Also, take a look at this cover at the back of the statue. How yellow is that, huh? But the worst part is actually Iceman himself. As you can see, his arms, both his arms, are no longer of the same color as the rest of his body, since both of his arms are detachable, but the rest of his body is one piece, which is perfect by the way since there will be less visible seams. The arms are probably at the perfect state of the statue, or what the entire statue should look like. Still pretty pearly white with some blues, whereas the body already has some yellowish tones to it. Other collectors probably did not and would not experience this changing of colors. Not sure why I am experiencing this. Probably a factor that it stayed longer in the box since I got the statue on a later date. I think it's like a year after Gem Mint uploaded his review on this XM Iceman. What I'm afraid of is what if the yellowish chunk of ice underneath my statue will become the overall color of the ice on the whole statue. Collectors are telling me to just repaint it, but I don't think collectors buy licensed statues with the mindset of repainting it. Of course, I do put licensed statues, especially XM, on a higher standard than the rest. Also, it's kinda different when I don't like the colors that was used versus I'm trying to mask the defects of the statue. Imagine if my statue is already yellow and the frozen effect on the cannon is still color white, or both the arms are still pearly white. Anyway, before we end, take a look at the armpits on my Iceman. Definitely something to look forward to in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching till the end. Hope you guys understand that I am not hating on this statue. This is just my honest and unbiased review of this statue since I did buy this statue with my own money and it was not sponsored. Like and subscribe. This is Carl and see you in the next one.